The notification popped up on my screen at 6:47 in the morning. Critical system failure. Database servers were down, and the production environment was compromised. Automated alerts flooded my phone. That familiar ping I had heard 1,000 times over 15 years. My coffee sat untouched in the quiet kitchen. On any normal Thursday, I would already be logged into the virtual private network, monitoring dashboards and messaging the team. I had worked from home Thursdays and Fridays for 3 years, a concession made when I threatened to leave back in 2020. But this morning I stared at my laptop screen for 11 seconds, then did something I had never done. I closed it. Sarah asked from the doorway, already dressed for her shift at the medical clinic. She had her keys in her hand. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything is fine," I said. My voice sounded calm, almost too calm. "Just work stuff." She knew me better than that. 15 years of marriage meant she could read the tension in my shoulders, the way my jaw set when I was holding something back. But she also knew when not to push. "Toby is still asleep," she said, pouring herself a quick cup of coffee. "I will drop him at school on my way in." I nodded, watching my phone light up again. Another alert, then another. The system was melting down, and somewhere in a corner office with a view of the city skyline, Justin Pierce was probably just waking up. Justin Pierce, the newly appointed Vice President of Engineering, could not debug a basic authentication error 3 months ago without my help. "My name is Jason Vance, and I have been a senior systems engineer at TechFront Solutions for 15 years. When I started, the company had 43 employees in a Newark warehouse. Now we have 1,800 across 4 states. I built the entire infrastructure, every server configuration, database sync, and disaster recovery protocol. I also trained the team, including Justin, who started as a junior engineer in 2008. I taught him how to think like a system, covered for his mistakes, and recommended him for promotions." Last Tuesday, we were called into a company-wide meeting where the chief executive officer presented a slide deck about restructuring. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues asking if I was finally getting the vice president spot. Everyone knew I had earned it with 15 years of perfect performance reviews and 3 major system overhauls that saved the company millions. I had trained half the department. Then the chief executive officer clicked to the next slide, and Justin's face filled the screen. "Please join me in congratulating our new Vice President of Engineering," the chief executive officer announced. Justin's innovative thinking and leadership potential make him the perfect fit for this role. The room erupted in applause. I clapped too, muscle memory taking over while my brain tried to process the shock. Justin stood up, all smiles, shaking hands. His eyes found mine across the room. He had the decency to look uncomfortable for about half a second before the congratulations swallowed him up. After the meeting, Karen from Human Resources called me in. "We value your contributions, which is why we are offering you this retention bonus," she said, sliding a folder across the desk. It was a $12,000 bonus, paid over 12 months. That was a mere $1,000 a month before taxes to stay and support Justin, whose starting VP salary was $285,000, plus stock options. "You are technical, he is leadership," Karen explained. "Different value propositions." "I trained him," I said quietly. "He still asks me questions every single week." "And that mentorship is so valuable," she said. "That is exactly why we need you to stay and support him in this transition." Support him. The words tasted like copper in my mouth. I signed the paperwork because I did not know what else to do. I walked back to my desk in a daze, finding an email already waiting from Justin, sent to the entire engineering team. He wrote about how excited he was to start this new chapter and added a special thanks to me, whose guidance had been invaluable. Special thanks, like I was a helpful colleague, and not the person who had built his entire career. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I had watched Justin settle into his new office, the one with actual windows and a door that closed. I had watched him in meetings, confidently presenting technical strategies that were just repackaged versions of things I had explained to him months earlier. And I had kept working, monitoring systems, fixing database problems, and training new hires. I was the person everyone came to when something broke. Until this morning. The server crash was not random. Someone had pushed a database configuration change without proper staging late last night. It was the kind of rookie mistake I had spent 15 years preventing, an outage that would cost the company with serious money. Toby appeared in the kitchen doorway, backpack on his shoulders. He was 11 years old and already more organized than most adults in my department. "You okay, Dad?" he asked. "Just thinking about work, buddy," I replied. "Is something broken?" he asked. "Yes," I said, and felt a small smile. "But it is not my problem this time." Sarah caught my eye as she walked past. She knew something had shifted. We would talk about it later after Toby was at school. My phone kept buzzing. "Have a good day at school, Toby," I told him. "Love you." "Love you too, Dad," he said. He hugged me and headed for the door. Sarah lingered. "You sure you are all right?" she asked. "I will be," I said. After they left, the house fell into silence. I poured coffee and sat at the kitchen table. My laptop closed. My phone buzzed constantly. I thought of all the times I had sprinted to fix problems, vacations cut short, and middle-of-the-night calls. I had even flown back early from my father's funeral because of a database migration issue. Now Justin was in his new office, probably seeing the alerts and reaching for his phone to call me, just as he always did. The first call from Justin came at 7:58. I let it go to voicemail. The second came at 8:03, then a text at 8:15 asking for an urgent update. I did not respond. By 9, I had 6 missed calls from Justin, 3 from the Director of Technology and 2 from Karen in Human Resources. Even Diana Patterson from accounting emailed my personal account, pleading for help. The company-wide chat channels were exploding. The website was throwing timeouts. Databases were unreachable, and the entire system was in a state of disaster, and I sat at my kitchen table, drinking coffee, watching it all unfold from a distance. You might think I felt guilty. You might think 15 years of dedication and responsibility would override everything else. That muscle memory would kick in and I would jump into action, because that is what I had always done. But here is what I felt instead: free. For the first time in 15 years, someone else's emergency was not my crisis. Someone else's poor decision was not my problem to fix. The weight I had been carrying, so constant I had stopped noticing it, suddenly lifted. At 9:47 in the morning, my doorbell rang. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. Justin stood on my front porch, still in his formal coat, looking like he had driven straight from the office. I opened the door but did not invite him inside. "Jason," he said, breathless. "Thank goodness. I tried calling." "I know," I said. "We have a massive system failure," he said. "Production database servers are down. I need you to log in." "No," I said. The word hung in the air between us. Justin blinked. "What?" he asked. "No," I repeated. "I am not logging in today." "But the servers are down," Justin stammered. "You are the vice president of engineering," I said. "This seems like exactly the kind of thing a vice president should handle." His face shifted from confusion to absolute panic. "Jason, come on. You know the database better than anyone." "I cannot help you," I replied. My voice stayed level, which seemed to unsettle him. "This is a crisis and you are in the leadership position. You have a whole team at your disposal, documentation, and access to all the same tools I do." "But I do not have," he started, then stopped. "You do not have the knowledge," I finished for him. "That is interesting, considering your resume lists you as an expert in systems architecture and technical leadership." "Jason, please," he pleaded. "The company is losing money every minute, and the chief executive officer is losing his mind." "Then you should probably get back to the office and handle it," I said. "I cannot do this without you," Justin said. There it was, the truth. The new vice president could not do his job without the engineer he had leapfrogged. "You will have to learn," I said. "I have complete faith in your innovative thinking and leadership potential." I started to close the door. Justin put his hand against it. "Wait, just wait," he said, running his hand through his hair. "What do you want?" he asked. "A raise, more bonus money. Just tell me what it will take to get you online." "It is not about money, Justin," I replied. "Then what?" he asked. "You have never walked away from a problem before." "You are right," I said. "I have not. For 15 years, I solved every crisis and covered for every gap in knowledge. And that got me a $12,000 retention bonus and the privilege of watching someone I trained get the job I earned." "I did not ask for this promotion," he said. "Did you not?" I asked. "You took the promotion, the salary, and started making decisions you do not have the technical experience to handle." Justin's face flushed. "So this is revenge," he asked. "You are going to let the company crash to prove a point. I am simply not saving you from the consequences of your own actions," I replied. "Whoever pushed that bad database configuration last night should fix it." "How did you know it was a configuration change?" he asked. "Because I built that system. I documented it and created protocols to prevent this. If those protocols were ignored, that is a leadership problem." We stood in the cold autumn air as Justin's world fell apart. "Please," he said in a whisper. "I am asking you, please help." Part of me, the reliable Jason who solved every problem, almost caved. But then I remembered Karen in Human Resources explaining my different value proposition. I remembered every late night and canceled family vacation. "No," I said. "Good luck, Justin." I closed the door, watching through the window as he walked back to his car and started making calls. I silenced my phone and went to take a shower. By noon, the outage was all over my personal network. Former colleagues were texting, and my email was flooded with questions. I spent the afternoon doing things I never did on Thursday. I went to the grocery store, took my time, and picked up Toby from school myself. We went for ice cream, and he told me I was acting different. Just different, he decided, and I laughed. "Did you quit your job?" he asked. "Not yet," I said, "but maybe soon." "Cool," Toby said. "You are always working anyway. Mom says you work too much." "She is probably right," I admitted. "Are we going to be poor?" he asked. I laughed. "No, buddy, we are going to be fine. Sarah made good money as a nurse, we had healthy savings, and my resume would open doors anywhere." When we got home, Sarah sent Toby upstairs. "All right," she said, sitting down. "Talk to me." So I did. I told her about the promotion, the bonus, the crash, and my refusal to help. "How much has the company lost today?" Sarah asked. "Hundreds of thousands, possibly millions if they stay down," I replied. "And you could fix it?" she asked. "In about 45 minutes, yes. But you are not going to do it." "No," I said, "I am not." She smiled. "Good. I have watched you give everything to that place for 15 years, she said. "I have comforted Toby when you missed school events for work calls. If you are finally drawing a line, then yes, good." I had not cried yet, but hearing her support broke through the dam. She held me as I let out the accumulated stress of 15 years of unappreciated labor. That evening at 6:32 in the evening, I received an email from the chief executive officer. The subject line read, "Urgent conversation needed." Sarah read it over my shoulder. "Very subtle," she murmured. "He probably had his assistant draft it." But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. "Jason, I understand you have been unreachable today during a critical incident," the email read. "I need you to call me immediately so we can discuss this situation and your future with the company. This is a priority matter requiring your immediate attention." "Your future with the company," Sarah repeated. "That sounds like a threat." "It is definitely meant to be one," I said, setting the phone down. "They still do not understand the leverage here." "Are you going to respond?" she asked. "Tomorrow," I said. "Maybe." I slept better that night than I had in years. No laptop on the nightstand, no phone within reach, no part of my brain monitoring for alerts, just deep, dreamless sleep. Friday morning, I woke up naturally at 7:15. No alarms, no emergency calls. Toby was already up, and Sarah was making pancakes. "What is the occasion?" I asked, walking into the kitchen. "Celebrating my husband's newfound ability to disconnect from work," she said, flipping a pancake. "It has only been one day," I protested. "It has been one amazing day," she corrected. I checked my phone over breakfast. I had 23 missed calls and 47 emails. The most recent email from Justin simply read, "We are still down." They had been fighting the outage for 16 hours. A database configuration issue that I could have resolved before lunch had become an overnight catastrophe. At 8:30 in the morning, while driving Toby to school, Karen from Human Resources called. I let it go to voicemail 3 times before finally answering the 4th call. "Jason, thank goodness," Karen said. "We need you in the office." The chief executive officer cleared his calendar. "That is not necessary," I said. "I am a senior systems engineer, not leadership. This seems like a leadership problem." There was silence then. "Jason, let us be adults about this." "I am being extremely adult, Karen," I replied. "For the first time in 15 years, I am setting boundaries. I am not available today." "This could be considered job abandonment," she warned. "Could it?" I asked. "I have not been assigned any active tickets." Nobody has formally requested my assistance through proper organizational channels. I am simply choosing not to volunteer my personal time to solve problems outside my official job description. I am scheduled to work from home on Thursdays and Fridays, and nobody told me I was needed in the office or on the system before the outage occurred. More silence followed. I could practically hear her trying to figure out if my argument was legally sound. "The chief executive officer wants to discuss your concerns," she finally said. "About the vice president promotion, about your compensation. He is willing to have that conversation now." "Now he is," I said. "Now that he needs something from me, he is willing to talk about my concerns." "That is interesting timing, don't you think?" "Jason, please," she said. "Tell him I will come in on Monday," I said. "We can have a conversation then. If the systems are still down by then, well, maybe that says something about whether my role is really just technical." I hung up the phone before she could respond. It felt terrifying and exhilarating. I had never been that direct with anyone at work, never pushed back, never made demands. Reliable Jason did not make waves, but maybe it was time for a different version of myself. I spent Friday doing things I never did. I met Megan for lunch, went to the gym, and updated my resume. It turned out that senior systems engineers with my experience were in high demand. By the end of the day, I had 3 interested recruiters and a competitor offering to start a conversation at a base salary of $200,000. In the meantime, the outage entered its second day. Curious, I logged into a secondary, isolated read-only archive I had designed for compliance purposes. This archive hosted transaction logs and remained online even during database crashes. What I found was far worse than technical incompetence. Reviewing the logs, I noticed a series of uploads to the state government compliance portal. TechFront relied heavily on a multi-million-dollar state contract that required a database security certification last Tuesday. The disaster recovery tests had actually failed because of Justin's routing errors. Yet, the submitted report was marked as fully certified. I opened the document details. It was signed with my digital administrative signature, indicating I had personally audited and certified the test. But I was on family leave that Tuesday, and my logs showed zero activity. The audit trail showed the signature was applied from Justin's IP address using an override token. Justin had forged my signature to hide his failure. Under California Penal Code Section 470, forging a digital credential on official compliance records is a felony. Because it was unauthorized, the certification was void ab initio, legally invalid from the beginning. By submitting this forged document, TechFront was in material breach of its state contract and in violation of federal securities laws. I downloaded the audit logs, the IP tracking records, and the forged document metadata, saving them to an encrypted external drive. I printed 2 copies and placed them in a folder. This was no longer just a dispute about a promotion. It was a complete shift in leverage. If this information reached the state regulators or the board of directors, the company would face immediate cancellation of their primary source of revenue, massive fines, and potential criminal indictments for the executives involved. Sarah came home to find me cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not just reheating leftovers. "Who are you and what have you done with my husband?" she joked. "He is taking his life back," I said. That night, Toby asked if he could have friends over on Saturday. Usually I would check my work calendar first to make sure there were no scheduled system maintenance windows or on-call rotations. This time, I just smiled and said yes. Saturday was blissfully normal. Kids were playing video games and laughing downstairs. Sarah was preparing food in the kitchen, and I was present, fully engaged, not half focused on a laptop screen. I did not check my work email, and I did not log into the company chat. I existed completely outside of TechFront Solutions for the first time in 15 years. It was wonderful. Sunday evening, I opened my work inbox. The email count had grown to over 100, but buried among the alerts, I found one from Diana Patterson in accounting. "Jason, I have heard through the grapevine what has been happening, and I just want to say, good for you," she wrote. "I watched you train Justin, watched you get passed over, and watched this company take advantage of your dedication. There are people here who see your value, even if leadership does not." I read it twice, feeling a sense of validation. I was not alone. Then, I found another email sent late Friday afternoon from Justin. It was a brief notice to the engineering department. Systems restored as of 3:47 in the afternoon. On Friday it read, had to bring in external consultants to resolve the configuration conflict. Post-mortem meeting scheduled for Monday at 9 in the morning. So they had finally fixed it. It had taken them over 30 hours, cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in consultant fees, and caused massive customer churn, but they had done it without me. Good. On Monday morning, I wore my best professional suit, arriving at the office at 9 in the morning. The receptionist's eyes went wide. "Mr. Vance, they are waiting for you in the executive conference room," she said, pointing toward the elevators. The executive conference room was on the top floor, a glass-walled space overlooking the city. Inside, I found the Chief Executive Officer Richard Miller, the Chief Financial Officer Graham Stone, and Karen from Human Resources. Justin was also there, looking exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. I walked in, but I did not sit down. I chose to stand, keeping my posture relaxed but firm. "Jason, thank you for coming in," Richard Miller said, gesturing to an empty leather chair. "I prefer to stand for now," I said. "Let us get straight to the point," Graham Stone said, sliding a sheet of paper across the glass table. "The total cost of the outage, including database recovery, lost transactions, client compensation, and emergency consultant fees, is currently estimated at $2,300,000. I looked at the sheet but did not touch it. "That is a significant sum," I remarked. "It is," Richard Miller agreed. "And we are extremely disappointed that our senior systems engineer was completely unreachable during a critical event that threatened the company's survival." "I was not unreachable," I corrected. "I was off the clock and not on the scheduled on-call rotation." Karen jumped in. "Jason, nobody is questioning your rights, but this is a matter of professional responsibility. You allowed this failure to drag on because you were unhappy about the promotion." "I did not allow anything," I said, looking at Richard Miller. "I did not push the faulty database configuration that caused the crash. I am not responsible for compensating for a lack of capability and leadership." "That is insubordinate," Graham Stone snapped. "No, it is honest," I replied. "Expecting me to do vice president level work for senior engineer pay while offering me a tiny retention bonus is what is insulting." The room fell silent. Justin stared at the table, unable to look me in the eye. Richard Miller leaned back, studying me. "So, what is it you want, Jason?" he asked. "We offered you a bonus to stay." "That bonus was an insult," I said. "The vice president position required technical leadership. I have provided that leadership for 15 years. I have trained half the department and saved this company millions. What I have not done is play the corporate politics game." But this weekend proved that politics cannot keep the servers running. Graham Stone cleared his throat, suggesting a salary adjustment. "It is not just about money," I said. "It is about respect." Richard Miller exchanged glances with Graham. "What if we match the vice president's salary?" Richard proposed. "We can keep your current title, but compensate you at the same level." "No," I said. "Matching the salary while keeping me in a subordinate position does not change the fact that I am expected to carry the technical weight without the authority to prevent these disasters." "Then what will it take?" Richard asked, his patience wearing thin. "I want Justin's job," I said. The words were calm, clear, and absolute. "I want the title of Vice President of Engineering, the authority that comes with it, and the salary." Justin made a strangled sound. "You cannot be serious," he stammered. "I am entirely serious," I said. "I am the most qualified person for the role, and the events of this weekend proved it." "This is ridiculous," Justin said. "You cannot just demand my position because you chose to set a boundary." "I did not just set a boundary, Justin," I said, opening my folder and sliding the printed audit logs across the table. Both Richard Miller and Graham Stone leaned forward. "What is this?" Graham asked. "Those are the logs showing that a disaster recovery certification was submitted to regulators last Tuesday as passed, even though the tests failed," I explained. "I was out of the office on family leave that day. The audit trail shows the signature was applied from Justin's IP address using an override token. Under California Penal Code Section 470, forging a digital credential on official compliance records is a felony. Because it was unauthorized, the certification is void ab initio. The company has submitted a forged compliance audit to both the state and the federal regulators. The silence became absolute. Graham Stone stared at the documents, his hands trembling, while Richard Miller looked at Justin with cold fury. "Is this true?" Richard asked. Justin looked down at the table, confirming everything. "If this is reported to the state regulators and the board, TechFront Solutions will lose its primary contract immediately, and there will be an investigation into corporate fraud." "I am not looking to destroy this company," I said, keeping my voice level. "But I will not allow my credentials to be used to cover up incompetence, and I will not work under a leadership team that tolerates forgery." Richard Miller turned back to Justin. "Justin," he said, his voice quiet and deadly, "leave the room." Justin stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor, and walked out of the conference room without saying a word. The glass door clicked shut behind him. Richard Miller rubbed his temples. "You have put us in a very difficult position, Jason. You put yourselves in this position by prioritizing corporate optics over competence and allowing shortcuts," I said. "We would need time to restructure," Graham Stone said, his tone defensive. "We need to manage the transition. 2 weeks," I said. "I want the contract finalized in writing by Wednesday, or I will accept an offer from a competitor." Richard Miller looked at the documents, then at me. He knew he had no choice. The cost of losing the state contract and facing a regulatory investigation was too high. "All right," Richard said. "We will draw up the contract. Vice President of Engineering, with a salary matching Justin's base plus a 15% premium for the transition. Stock options, 4 weeks of paid time off, and clear guidelines regarding on-call rotations and compensation. Karen will have the draft ready for your review. 15% more than what Justin was making. The financial adjustment was a welcome acknowledgement of my value." "I want it in writing by Wednesday," I repeated. "You will have it by Tuesday afternoon," Richard promised. "Can we count on your support if a critical issue arises before then? Put me on the official on-call rotation with the appropriate hourly rate for emergency work, and I will be available." Graham Stone let out a short, dry laugh. "Fair enough," he said. "Karen, make the arrangements. Jason, is there anything else?" "Yes," I said. "I want a public company-wide announcement of the promotion. No quiet restructuring. We do this properly." "Agreed," Richard said, standing up to shake my hand. "Welcome to the leadership team, Jason." I shook his hand, feeling a sense of relief. As I walked out, I saw Justin standing by the window. I walked over. "Justin," I said. He turned, looking defeated. "This is not personal," I told him. "You are a capable engineer, but you were not ready for this role, and you should never have forged those compliance reports." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I actually recommended you for the vice president spot. Initially," he said. "I told Richard you deserved it. That surprised me." "Then why did they promote you?" I asked. "Richard said you were too valuable in your technical role, too important to operations to move into administration," Justin explained. "He said they needed you where you were." "I thought it was a compliment to your skills." I felt a sudden understanding. The executive team had played us both, using Justin's ambition and my dedication to keep their systems running while paying us as little as possible. "They took advantage of both of us," I said. "They gave you a position you were not ready for and tried to keep me locked in a role I had outgrown." "Yes," he agreed quietly. "I guess they did. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the signature. I was panicked." "I know," I said. "We will find a proper place for you in the department, but things are going to change." He managed a weak smile. "I suppose they are," he said. I walked down to the engineering floor. The team was quiet. I gathered them around. "I know there are rumors," I said. "The servers are back online, and we will conduct a post-mortem. There will be organizational changes announced soon. Any questions?" Cody, a junior developer, raised his hand. "Are you leaving?" he asked. "No. I am staying," I said. "And we are going to build a better system here." I spent the rest of the day documenting the critical infrastructure paths. On Tuesday afternoon, Karen emailed me the contract. I reviewed it carefully with Sarah and had an employment attorney look it over. Everything was exactly as agreed. I signed and returned it. A few hours later, the company-wide announcement went out. It read that Jason Vance had been promoted to Vice President of Engineering, effective immediately, citing my 15 years of dedication and technical expertise. It also mentioned that Justin was transitioning to a new role. My phone was flooded with messages from colleagues offering congratulations and expressing relief that someone who understood the technology was finally in charge. That evening, I came home to find a crooked congratulations banner hanging in the dining room made by Toby and Sarah. Toby asked if this meant I was the boss now. One of them, I told him, smiling. Can you give yourself Fridays off? He asked. We laughed. But in a way, I knew that being in charge meant I could finally establish a culture of balance. Dedicated work, but also clear boundaries and time for family. Over the next few months, we restructured the department. We eliminated the single points of failure, established clear on-call rotations with fair compensation, and built a team that did not rely on one person's burnout to survive. We did not have another major database outage. Good leadership was not about doing all the work yourself. It was about empowering capable people and giving them the tools to succeed. One Friday evening, I closed my laptop at exactly 5 in the afternoon and walked out of the building. Sarah, Toby and I went to the movies, and I did not check my phone once during the entire evening. Sitting in the dark theater, holding Sarah's hand with Toby laughing next to me, I felt a deep sense of peace. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. It was a message from Richard Miller, noting that our quarterly uptime metrics looked excellent and thanking me for my leadership. I smiled, put the phone back in my pocket, and turned my attention back to my family. I was exactly where I was supposed to be.